This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. You want to do the
Roll call. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Lucier. Here. Mr. Russell.
Here.
Or, Mr. Chittish, I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Russell. Mr. Russell. Mr. Jensen.
Here.
Ms. Holloway.
He's not here.
And Ms. O'Connell.
Here.
Ma'am, you have a physical quorum present, and we would need to vote to authorize Mr. Jensen to participate electronically.
Yeah.
Finding exceptional circumstances.
So moved.
Jensen, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass. All right. Can we stand for the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I had a board meeting yesterday, and they were interviewing that 6 candidates for 2 open seats, and one of them said, I find it deplorable that you don't say the Pledge of Allegiance before the meeting.
A lot of people feel that way,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so this is a continuation meeting from our August 19th meeting.
Yes, ma'am. And 2 requests on this. One is that under the minutes, you've got a copy. These are minutes of the continuation meeting, December 3rd. And I believe they were sent back in December, but we couldn't find that they were ever approved in the minutes. So we wanted just basically ratification. So we'll get those signed and get them posted. So
I only had one question on it,
Yeah.
and it's on item 14, the last line. This would also be a rule change? Did we go change the rule?
yeah, well, that was when we were starting to get into the whole
Yeah.
rule change
Right.
Yeah, all right.
process.
Any other questions on the minutes?
So I move we approve the draft minutes from the December 3rd continuation meeting, 2021.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 December 23rd. Okay.
That was an aye?
Yeah.
Yes.
The other thing that we had is just if I don't think it'll be long, but if we can get out here by 11:30, I've got to get these loan papers to the bank, by 2. So if, I don't think Francesca would mind, but if we could just move the item 12B, which is one of the 2 items that it was carried over. If we could move 12B up ahead of 10B, that would be great.
I have no problem with that.
I'll move that we do that.
Okay, I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Terry, you seconded that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay. You still can have audience comments. Would you like to see if anyone signed up for audience comments?
We have a sheet out.
We do. Yes, you've got 1 Ms. Jansen, and she wanted to speak on parcel 13.
Deborah, you want your?
But they're both working, so wherever you want. No, just in between.
Okay, here,
the
yeah.
2 of them.
Deborah Jansen, 205 Sunrise K. Regarding parcel 13, when it's discussed, please explain in detail what green space means. I looked online and could not find anything under Collier County really saying what green space is, what the limitations are, and then of course potentially if any of the other residents other than at the development can use it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Francesca will address that when she goes to the presentation.
That's correct.
Okay. I don't think there's any other comments.
Is there anyone online that has a comment? Nobody's saying anything. You need to unmute your mic if you would like to say something. No, ma'am.
Okay, so move on.
12B.
12B.
Now, what part of 12B did we not do last?
Well, last time there was a couple of Scrivener typo matters with regards to the documents and timing, and a little timing issue about getting everything squared away to the bank to fund, so that the rate stays the same, everything, and the payment dates are the same. And so this resolution that for you approves the adoption of the loan agreement that's in front of you, which is the same. The dates are just changed to make it September 6th as the effective date of note. Maturity is still May of 2027. And that's why Cal needs, the way the bank works, they need to have the documents by 2 p.m. today to fund the 6th, which is Tuesday, I believe. So I would request that the board adopt resolution 2022-12, and the term sheet's the same that Cal presented. He'll attach that to the resolution also. That's an exhibit to the resolution.
Okay.
All right, I'll move that we adopt with the 2022-12
And also the loan agreement itself.
and the loan
And the
agreement.
loan agreement. Of
I
September
was
6th.
correct when it is 2022-12.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Who seconded?
Who seconded?
Nobody.
Terry did.
Jerry. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Already wrote that down.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. All right, Francesca. And
In the documents, I don't know if it was included here, but, the bank needed the engineer's estimates, so that's been included as far as the work that would be done with this money. And they needed to know about any lawsuits, and the 2 lawsuits with Mr. Preppin and Mr. McNamee were both listed. Okay, that covers the loan agreement too, Tony?
yes, the board approved both the resolution and the loan agreement.
That takes us to 10B, parcel 13.
What I would suggest, Madam Chair, we had, this is an introduction like last time, that the district's team and Lindsay's team have worked. Do you mind if I call you Lindsay as opposed to Mr. Case, or? Okay. Captain Upbringing, attend want to call Mr. Case, sorry.
LJC.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. And we've been working hard, and this is one of those transactions that, from the standpoint of the survey, the title, the infrastructure issues and items that we've been working hard at it, and we still have some, and Francesca will walk you through what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks. And recently, as a couple of days ago, a lot of it's driven by, number one, the site conditions, the site issues, and the county issues. Is my fair representation? Yeah. And so I would say that we are about 96% there with the documents. It's just, it's always in real estate transactions, it's always the last 4, usually the last 0.1% that. And so what we're going to request, and we've had some brief discussions about this, is ask that if parties agree to, because again, the final form of the documents, you can see the flurry of activity over the last few days. Request that the board has their next regular meeting of September 16th. In that we amend the agreement to have the closing of September 23rd, not September 9th, which would be next Friday. That way, we have final documents on the 16th, and we close on the 23rd. And hopefully, Mr. Case is acceptable amenable to that. And nothing else will change on the contract.
Sooner the better, always.
I'm sorry?
Sooner the better.
Oh, I agree. So it'll be no later than September 23rd. We make that.
Well, the money's in place. So.
Yep. Yeah, and so that's, and then we would, Francesca and I worked a real quick short amendment, the 4th amendment, and say no later than September 23rd, and we'll shoot for, as soon as we have the September 16th meeting, finalize everything as soon as we can. Believe me, I like to have deals go through. Francesca also does, and this board and Mr. Case also do.
The original date was going to be in August, wasn't it?
No, the original date was much later. Then we moved it to August, I think.
Right.
So we moved it up, I think.
I forgot what the original
It
date
was
was.
originally August 17th.
Was it August 17th?
And no, maybe, but we have a load of very highly productive documents.
I agree.
We have a deal that can now go to the county, probably usher through, and it's a 6-month process, 6 to 9 month process. And then we'll also be doing some actual field utility installs and change outs, upgrades in the next 6 months, so.
Yeah, and because
It's not, I'm not here, because I've already got 200,000 cash in this deal right now for the consultants and the non-refundable to the district, so. I mean, it's okay to delay.
Oh, yeah, I don't think it's a delay. I think it's an extension because again, the form of the documents in front of you today, there have been a number of major changes the last few days as we've been going through it. And everybody's working diligently in good faith to get this finalized.
But there's been major changes.
I wouldn't, I was going to, and I didn't mean to, but I wouldn't characterize it as major changes. And let me walk you through, and then we can determine whether an extension makes sense.
I believe it does.
I'm not asking for it.
I believe it does.
I'm not asking for it either. I just want to know what you're talking about.
Tony,
Talking
I
answers.
think for them to make an educated decision, we should, this is just, because I'm reading the tender right now. I think we should.
No, I understand, Francesca, but my guidance to the board is to have the extension because the form of the documents, we have changes that we need to finalize and wrap up as to some matters that if we can do them today, we still have to make document changes in the next week. For example, the governance, I think 100% done. I'm comfortable with that. Those can be finalized and blessed today. But there are some of the other issues regarding
Like
the
the
site plans.
post-operating agreement,
I'm sorry?
the post.
The post-closing agreement, yeah. I think
post-closing.
that's the one I think where we have a couple more items that we just need to finalize.
Right, and land plan things have modified that document be tweaked, so it kind of has an evolution of its own, but it can still be done. We can still close with that and still know how to modify.
But that's what I'm requesting in behalf of the district. If not the 23rd, then the 16th. I mean, at least another week, I think would be very helpful because this is a transaction that we all have to live with for quite a long time.
And I can say, I can close the escrow on my side. I think we're ready to tender the cash according to the terms. We don't see anything that you could produce in 2 weeks that cause a modification to that.
But that's still my request to the board and my recommendation.
How does the rest of the board feel?
I think we need to,
Yeah,
let's
Listen
hear
first.
what are the changes.
we keep pushing it off and pushing it off. I mean, you know, get it over with.
Okay, so,
I get it, but you know,
There's going to be
then
so the last time we were together, we went through Tony's agenda memorandum that enumerated various documents. From that agenda, the only modification to the declaration of restrictions, and I'll tell you the genesis of that modification, was an additional site plan that addresses on a contingency basis, the entry road. Subsequent to our meeting, I wanted to understand the board's direction as to the configuration of that entry road. That was important for us before approaching the county in a serious manner. I needed to know it was supported. After we obtained the support, I spoke with all the staff members in the county attorney's office who were in the first round of meeting. And it is at this point uncertain what the business terms would be as to that right-of-way acquisition. And two, it's ultimately going to be a commissioner decision by a majority vote. Because those decisions have not yet been made and we're not in control of that process, similar to the zoning. In talking with Mr. Case and Rich Ivanovich in my office, we thought it was prudent both from his perspective, but also so the district knew what the backup option would be if a roadway through the county parcel just becomes not possible because the board turns it down. Then we have an alternative roadway network that would anticipate that outcome. The roadway network will be through the property Mr. Case is acquiring And that whole, and the entire roadway that is Union Road and the expansion of Union Road will continue to be a district asset. So there's no interruption to access to your
Plan
facility.
C.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank you, you're in my mind. Yeah, and in front of you is Plan C, if anybody wants to
This
copy
is
it.
the plan that I want the board now to say, okay, that plan, County, we're going forward with that. I don't want to have an alternative, that is the plan, because I can't leave this meeting thinking that I should assess the issues left. And I don't think it's in the best interest for the board to leave that either.
Yeah, and in the covenants, I handed out in Francesca's packet also has a red line version, I'll call it. And it's on page 7 of 17 of the red line declaration of restrictions and protective covenants that I handed out. It's at the top. And the section involves it's Article 3, Section 2B. And Section 2 is zoning contingency, alternative development plan, roadway contingency. If you go to page 7.
Where are we talking? Tony, get us all on.
Yeah.
That's right, I just said 7 of 17 on the red line
Right,
version.
but
The red
let
line,
us have a moment to find it.
the red
Is
line,
that-
the red line version that I handed out. If you go to page 7 of 17.
Okay, is that the ones on the left, or is that the ones on
That's
the right?
Francesca's packet.
This is Francesca's.
Okay,
I have a separate
Here.
document I gave you.
We handed this out.
It's a separate standalone document to try to make it easier.
okay.
So page 7.
Okay, I didn't see that.
All right.
7 of 17.
Got it.
This is
Okay, I'm there.
third plan. All right. I'm not.
So it's the top is reach roadway contingency declared. Sure.
And this is the document says declaration of restrictions and protective covenants.
Correct.
Okay, and then if you go halfway in, page 7 of 17. And what is changed from what was approved by the board previously is section B at the top and with exhibit D.
Yeah, and Francesca, again, if you can explain the rationale for that
Yeah.
particular additional contingency.
So again, when last time we met, we spoke about the fact that the way that and I don't have a projector, but if you recall, and you can see on the site plan, the road that exists through the county property today.
That would probably be a site plan A.
A and B.
Yeah, well, I'll just show you what exists today because I think it's good to reframe everybody on why we are where we are as far as the county property. So the roadway through the county property is just dashed. That's representative of perhaps prescriptive rights, but certainly nothing that we can hang our hat on as far as providing legal access through the county property to serve the project. So because of that, we met with county staff. County staff said where the road is today, we definitely don't agree with. We might agree with, and this is just at the staff level, a roadway along the perimeter. So I brought that to this board. This board approved that perimeter road concept, and I believe you submitted, or at least approved to submit a letter of support in that regard.
Site plan A.
Well, it is site plan A and B is that
And B,
roadway
right.
configuration. So I then, after I had the blessing of this board, spoke with county staff, and then they started to waffle a little bit. They started to throw in new terms that sounded a little bit like exactions. We just don't know where it's going. We don't know if I need 3 of 5. So even if Commissioner LaCastro of this district supports the plan, which we believe he does, we need 2 other affirmative votes. And what I don't want to do is be in a position where we've recorded a document where I just can't execute on it, can't perform on it because the board hasn't approved it. So we discussed internally, Rich Ivanovich is extremely adept at land use matters, and he also recommended that we all be on the same page and understand that if that plan cannot get approved by the county, that everybody understands we've already worked through, both from an engineering perspective and costs,
that Mr. Case can absorb, and from a title perspective, that we can execute on Plan C as far as access. So that way we don't leave closing and then we all realize, wait, there's something in this plan that is still subject to Collier County approval at the board level.
Because I can't buy their land right now. They won't sell it to me.
Yeah, like we spoke about last time, the county's still interested in holding on to that property for their own assets.
Yeah, and Francesca, I would say that on the site plan, the only clarification would be that the roadway that would go up to Luland needs to be not considered open space, but shown as roadway still. It says connection to Luland at the top, but I think we just need to clarify that, that's all.
That's a micro.
But the roadway network will continue to be a public roadway, and it will provide access all the way to Luland in addition to the pure water facilities. So basically, we'll continue to bisect the project in that regard.
For Lindsay,
Yes, sir.
so we got A, B, and C. What's your primary? C, right? That roadway that way.
I think it's the best plan at all levels. And it should have been the layout that we did the first time, but we were all assuming the flow through the county site made sense because of the history of it, but because they didn't want to segment their site, which is understandable, they have $1 million of cost in that. Maybe Paul knows the actual number. They have a fortune of not receiving taxes and a tear down. So they didn't want to open space. Okay. And so they don't want to sell me because they don't want to be criticized for not having an open public auction. And then they also have the title issue, quieting it. So then they've got 6-month delay before they can offer it to even a deal that would work between the district and them on open space. 6 months before they could even talk about that. And so here I just said, we could process 2 plans at the same time. One is C and one is whatever we decide the county's congruent with. That way, if I'm the buyer or however it comes to me or not, perhaps they just submit their ground and it goes through the land use process and I can just add it on our plate. It's not that much of a deal. Then we can determine what their site costs from the future flows. They would have a participation site plus whatever EQR deal they worked out with you all. And that's how they would bring their site to the market in 6 or 8 months where they can't forward contribute it to us. But we can put a plan that this board would love for that site to have on it because they could sell it to an unknown bidder. And we don't like that idea. I just don't think it's the optimal, but I figure if we plan C, then we've got everything in case the county gets some high bidder for some random use that you would then later through that process too, but I just suggest that C is the way. I suggest planning 2 processes, submit 2 use applications at the same time, or the same application has 2 outcome possibilities. I know it sounds odd, but
yeah. And Lindsay,
it allows you as a board to force the county commissioners to go, what, come on. Your staff was so disempowered that they couldn't do anything other than say, we can't sell. And we can't help you. We can't forward anything for you or anything. And that's okay. They're in a different world too.
Yeah, and Lindsay, if I could, I believe, summarize it, C is applicable to A or B. So C is the road that as it's coming in. If they get the rezoning, then A would be altered to include that entryway that's identified on C. If they don't get the rezoning and they have to go with the multifamily, then it would be site plan B with the new entry road.
only question I have on this is, well, I have a couple of questions. Number one, at the curve where it turns into parcel line, that's where the road to Luland is going to go, correct? That's not shown on this plan, correct?
Well, no, because that's on your property. That's going to be.
No, but that was the comment I made. You're right, it's cross-hatched, it's like open space on here, so it needs to be better called out.
Okay, that's what I was
It
wondering.
needs the location, Sam.
Right.
That's what you're looking
Yes, thank you.
And that's part of why he wants another week.
Right there.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to make sure that the other, just a comment. The county didn't want to have anything to do with this until we came to them and said, we want to have something to do with it. And all of a sudden, they decide they're going to put a sheriff's office or whatever, which I don't have a problem with that, but why all of a sudden? They know we wanted to develop this from a year ago. And now they're going to let me just throw a few more rocks and pebbles into the ground here so we can make it harder.
Yeah, and they had mentioned, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago that was a potential use for it. And then when we started pressing them saying we want to, then they said, well, we decided against the sheriff's office. Yeah. But then until Lindsay there was an interest and we had somebody, and now all of a sudden the sheriff's department might be of interest again.
It was through the pre-app process of July 15th, our team responded with that rerouting. And so these are all things that we've all learned in a formal process. And we've got the best team in Southern Florida to take on whatever needs the county has and how to solve around it. Proud to say.
I got one more question for you. Site plan B looks different than it did before.
There's no changes to say.
No? What are those in between the units? Is that those parking areas or what? What's the deal? Are there no garages?
Do you mean like the actual parking fields here?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were their previous.
Okay, I don't remember seeing it. Because those have parking places, but the cul-de-sacs don't.
Is that on all?
Typically, you don't want parking in a cul-de-sac.
Well, I'm just wondering.
I mean, and that's one of the.
I'm just wondering what we need the parking spaces for. I'm just curious. I mean,
the county will make sure they have enough parking, or they won't issue a building permit.
Hey, Cal,
Yes, sir.
can I speak?
Yeah.
Cal, Lindsay and I talked about that, and I think his suggestion to the county that he's willing to provide 2 options is really the best way to go. And I told him, as much as I'm kind of embarrassed by it, that I don't know why the county's playing this game. That land's been for sale a long time. Nobody's ever been interested in it. And, but I do think if he's willing to provide 2 options, I think that's a really good way to go. The other thing is Plan C is going to get their attention because it circumnavigates their argument. And it's going to be, in my opinion, more money for him. I don't think that would be his first choice, but I do think by presenting that to the county as one of those 2, that they're going to say, uh-oh, this guy figured this out, which he did. And I think he's right. It's extremely frustrating. Locastro wants to sell any real estate holdings the county has, and the property manager kind of gets that too. But there are people that make decisions that are dragging this out, and we can't figure out why. So that's all I've got to say.
Time is why they've said they do have this, they have descriptive right issues in title because they acquired title than you all did and more recent than you all did. Paul, when did they acquire title?
That was like several years ago because they had
Quantity.
exactly
10 years?
I'll get your date.
Because you own 2, and when did you take your
We
title?
acquired title to the former dorm property since August of 2016.
Okay, so it'll be after that.
And Francesca, one other thing too on here, if you make a note too on site plans A and B, I think we need to do the same at the northeast corner, clarify the roadway going up to Luland. because it looks like it gets sort of subsumed and everything else, but I know everybody wants.
Michael is the design.
Yeah. Michael, are you the CAD operator or? Okay. I've known Michael for about 35 years. I didn't know you were the CAD operator. Okay. That's the site plan issue, and I guess the question is, we're going to come apart of Francesca, Michael, or Jake, that's the site plan. David, I don't think you have any issue.
Francesca, are you going to answer the question that Devin posed about?
I will. It might be appropriate to walk through that when we walk through the closing agreement, but I'll be very direct.
Yeah, what I'd like to do, maybe just mark off the list here. This is sort of one of the many items. I think we can finalize the covenants today, I think, from the standpoint of these are the documents that's going to be used at closing, at least take care of this issue. And so if the board's of the mindset, I mean, ultimately you will still approve them at closing or just before closing, that the covenants in your package as revised, redlined with these alternate site plans, we make the corrections for Luland are acceptable. I think I'd like to have that consensus.
Would you like a motion on that, or?
I think just a consensus for the board.
Yeah,
I think that's good enough.
You sure you don't want a motion?
Okay, we have
The
a
attorney,
have a motion. I'd like the motion to accept site plans A, B, and C, and then revised language in the covenants and the packet that's in you today with the correct notations to be made on the site plans to clearly show the access to new land, to parcel.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Starting to clear thunder on that one, Francesca.
Oh, no, please. I think that's good that we are methodical. But I'll deviate and then I'll go back to the details. So big picture on open space, for your benefit, for everyone. There's many layers of protection at this point. The document we just talked about will be recorded against the property and will say the areas that are hatched will be open space and available to the public, to all owners in Port of the Islands. There can be no structures placed in any of those areas. They have to be preserved as open space corridors. As to what activities may occur in there, passive recreational activities, that will be considered by Collier County in our zoning application. So I can't say precisely what activities may occur, but I will tell you that it benefits you and that there will be no structures in those locations. That is recorded against the property, one, so that's the title reference. Two, we also address it in the document I'm just about to speak on. It's basically an operating agreement that is going to govern the relationship between the parties after closing for building out the site. In that document, we have some obligations to the district for approval of our plat. Our plat will have to dedicate those exact same areas as open space to the public, meaning you will continue to have access rights over those areas. So you're protected right at closing because we're recording that restriction that says that those locations, but you'll also be protected as we go through this process and as we start real site plan documents with Collier County, because you will have review and approval rights over all of the site configuration elements to ensure that the open space remains consistent with everyone's expectations here today.
Yeah, and on that, if I can interject, maybe follow up on that. And again, another reason why I think it'd be helpful for the board to have another week to the 16th to review all this is that we've had substantial changes in the creation of this document. It's called closing and post-closing agreement. Easements, zoning, cost allocation, sometimes called the operating agreement. Or in that document, we've addressed a number of items. And one of them addresses the issue that Francesca just mentioned, or how to handle that, but at the time of platting. And you have a whole bunch of things that the parties agree. And D is to dedication of open space tracts in favor of seller and the residents and property owners in the Port of the Islands Community Improvement District in the areas depicted and denoted on attached Exhibit E. And that'll be crosshatch areas on a site plan. So that's part of what we just need to finalize and get that to the board and say, yes, that's the area. But that follows up on what Francesca said. So that'll be, the covenants get recorded before the deed. The deed goes of record and it references it's subject to these covenants. And so that's why we have this evolving, continual, cooperative, collaborative process. that a fair representation?
But I don't think we really answered your question yet, did we, Debbie? No.
No.
Thought we did.
Can I just?
I thought we very clearly did that.
Well, she wanted to
It's
know.
going to be just mowed grass? Are
That-
there going to be trees planted? Are there going to be walking trails? Who's going to be taking care of it? Whose responsibility is it going to be?
Okay, I understand. Maintenance right now will be a homeowner association, so private responsibility. If down the road, the board elects to assume maintenance, we are not precluding that option, but that would be something that is actually affirmatively approved in writing by the board and they would assume maintenance. But otherwise, it will be maintained by the homeowners association to a standard consistent with other district assets. And it's frankly in the best interest of, marketing the community, and then after you build out the community, maintaining it to a high standard.
And Francesca, on that, the covenants reference the fact that an area is designated on the site plan is open space.
I know, I think.
No, I'm just saying, in addition to the plat that's going to occur, the covenants provide for that, and then it will be the property owners association responsibility. Just to,
Oh, yeah.
that's all I'm saying.
And that issue of proportionality, you still have to understand, because all those homeowners over there don't have places to go walk on all the other people in the district's land. So the question is there a load that everyone's bringing onto this parcel 13 differently? So you're saying you want a prescriptive right, and you've been using it now, you might be using it the same.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just, if I were a homeowner in what's there, I don't know if I would want 900 other people walking around and get something that I'm paying for. So that's what the current residents would like to know. And then also if it's going to be low grass, okay, but do you think you want some shade there? So who's going to decide how to do the planting? Who's going to take care of those trees?
He's this guy that will do a landscape plan that is required for the process, and in that process, having the meeting. Okay, because you can help determine the proportionality when we think the future owners want, and they can determine what they think the future HOA will take on.
Well, I certainly am not the expert to do this. I would suggest getting some qualified.
Well, the district engineer can continue.
Looking at the area, deciding what can be planted there, what maintenance is.
I think it would be appropriate that we've been working with David this entire time. He's highly qualified to work in conjunction with us. I can't make commitments as to exactly what activities and what plantings will be put in there because I'd be shooting myself in the foot. I'd be misrepresenting to you. We have to go through an entire Collier County rezone process. That will dictate the limitations and scope of what I can do in that area. I can tell you today what we're committing to, and that is that it will be available to all residents, that it will be preserved in its open space condition, and that we will be required, I do know we'll be required to put plantings in that area in order to get our site development plan approved. But beyond that, I can't narrowly commit to exactly where and what, where a bench will be, for example. I don't have that level of approval from Collier County. What I can also commit to is what I said. We will continue to involve David and Tony. If Tony thinks, and he's been representing you this whole time, if Tony thinks that something warrants coming to the board because it calls a question, we'll do that. I mean, I think we've been transparent this whole time, and I don't want it to come across, and I don't want to get into this dialogue and come across like we've been anything but transparent and incredibly communicative the entire time.
I concur with all that. And one other aspect too is that with Collier County, any governmental body, when you're going through a rezone, and you do not do the nitty gritty level of detail until you get down to the actual site development and building permit phase. And so everything's at a higher level until you get to that. And that's when you start saying X number of bushes per Y number of feet, double rows, single rows, low bushes. I mean, that's at the time down the road, site development plan, after the zoning is in place. So that's the typical process.
Yeah, I think we have to remember that this land really is controlled by the HOA. it's really not our land anymore. And hopefully, they'll work with us and we can all agree on something, but it's their final decision.
We will continue to work with you. I'm committing to that. And we're obviously tying the property up in those locations where they will be accessible to you and open. So that's non-negotiable. That's something we're committing to before closing.
Yeah, in my opinion to the board, that the documents provide, the board has outlined at the beginning what the board wish to have as far as assurances in the form of the documents as to the development of the property. I don't guarantee anything. You can't ever guarantee 100%. But this is a level of detail in the documents. I think Kale and David would also agree that provides a substantial number of assurances and comfort level. I would suggest to the board, once we finalize all this, that the ability to review and approve and also the operation on the road of this property.
Can I just, Kathy Oswald over on Newport. Just from experience, there's a lot of people that think what Lindsay wants, Lindsay can get with the CIP board's approval. This is not true. My husband built in Collier County. He had a place that he was building up on Immokalee. Up until 3 months before they were supposed to break ground, everything was approved. All of a sudden, Collier County said, oh no, this has to be marshland. So now they have to totally do the whole, Collier gets what Collier wants, okay?
Yeah.
You're at their mercy. That's all I can tell you. It's true. And up all the way up until you have the actual.
That's why I like it.
And that's why I have white hair and less hair.
They can change tomorrow. They change like the weather.
It's true.
Carrie, can I just say something real quick?
No.
Deborah, thank you. When River Cove was built, we had to take green space and we have to maintain the green space. We have to retain a large area of green space across Union Road from us with Brazilian peppers we have to take out. And we had a committee under the authority of a landscaper go through and clear a pathway to make a walking path through it, except for the neighborhood to enjoy it work, and we invited people to enjoy it. Not one person went back there. Nobody wanted to walk through those areas because you don't know what's in there. But when I think everybody's required to have green space when they do a development, and it's the HOA that has to pay the money to take care of it, not the whole community.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
I mean, and again, we and myself and Francesca sent a whole bunch of documents in last night because again, we've still been working hard on this. So, and the closing and post-closing agreement, Francesca, do you want to sort of go through what the various aspects of it, what it addresses? And again, we're still working through some of these with them as far as the terms. But I think the global open comprehensive approach, I think everybody's on board. It's just a matter of getting the right terminology and words in to pin it down.
So this is a roadmap, if you will, to govern closing and then post-closing, hence the title. Under the easement section, that's section B, this is with respect to utility easements. So as we discussed at our last meeting, there are utility easements with district facilities and utility easements without district facilities. Both are right across building pads. So what we've worked through is anywhere where there are existing district facilities, you will retain an easement in your favor. That easement will acknowledge that you continue to have a right over your facilities and to maintain your facilities. At the time that we need to, and by we, I mean the developer, needs to relocate those facilities and upsize and probably make, enhancements because they're so old at this point, we will record a new permanent easement to the relocated facility area, which will basically be Union Road and the expansion of Union Road. So section B is just dealing with these easements that are encumbrances on the site plan, so they will be terminated and replaced with an easement over those existing facilities with language that basically acknowledges that those facilities will be relocated. and a permanent easement in favor of the district will be recorded in the relocation.
Yeah, and to that extent, from the standpoint of the documentation, I think we all agree on the concept. Francesca, I've drafted a number of documents. Francesca's commented on them. She drafted a couple of documents yesterday, following up her conference call we had yesterday. And again, that gets back to, we've been working on this. So she drafted a temporary non-exclusive public utility easement relocation agreement. I've not been able to review that yet, but I will expeditiously. So but that's the concept, is that the utility, for example, the utility lines are on the east side of the property that go up to the plant. Those are the lines at issue that when they're on the back end of the development of those 9 or 10 lots, and the district after closing would need an easement, temporary, to keep those in place, with the idea that it will be relocated. And so that's what that will address, but again, I need to review and provide my comments, but that's the approach. And also, you have the color-coded map. It's in the packet. We talked about this, I think, last time. The yellow ones, we no longer have any interest in or need for, they're abandoned mines. So all of the easements the district has will be terminated, but we'll get a new one back to the area in the box, that general area. That'll be relocated to probably Union Road. And so that's going to get it. David and I need to go through that to make sure it adequately addresses everything, but that's the idea. I think the board was on board with that. And then, so that's the concept for those. And as far as the cost of those, Francesca, do you want to address that?
That's a latter section, but I can go out of order.
I think might as well. Yeah, only because we're on that topic.
David, I prefer that you just cost allocation. Nothing has, in summary, nothing has changed from the last meeting as far as the credit amount and that we're doing all the work, and there's, I mean, speak to it, but nothing has changed.
Right. Yeah, if what again, I took David's memo and sort of reformatted, recast it as an exhibit.
Correct. Also correct. Yeah, so nothing's really changed. What we're looking at is we would participate in those costs associated with looping this system through Luland, and also Arch Cove, completing a loop there. Also deepening the lines and so forth, the gravity sewer lines, we can potentially serve that parcel that the county currently owns, and then also the line that will be terminated up by Luland too, that at some point Luland can come in to and have wastewater service for their property.
Also, David, I think on the road,
yes.
the road needs to be upgraded to handle the trucks going to the plant, and there's a cost differential. I think that's the concept.
Yeah, the roadway's the other component of that, and we would look at, we do an upgrade there as far as thickening up the pavement section and so forth. We would pay that incremental cost.
Didn't you give us a possible cost of that last time?
Yes, and that's included in the document. It's one of the very last exhibits.
Okay, yeah, it's like.
And those are just budgets at this point.
Right.
There'll be a true up as we get going through the process. We'll get more accurate pricing from the developer as the process moves forward.
So I think that takes care of, I think, Francesca, and the easements relating to the seller. And then what we also have, we have a document in there that will terminate and vacate the easement in favor of Luland, and then an easement back to Luland over those two segments. And so we'll work with Lou, work with Ray Jensen, if that's acceptable to the board, to present that to Lou for his approval and execution of the termination.
The other component of that of Luland would also be a granted easement to the district for those areas.
Yes. And part of it also is a dedication to the public to get up to that also, because the state has to get up to their lands. And
we got the cell tower up there too for those people to reach that property.
And that's in the next section inside.
Yeah, although I'm trying to go in order. If possible.
Well, I'm going in order, but I'm ahead of you. Sorry.
So that, we went through utilities, now we can go through access, which was a nice segue.
Nice dig.
Nice segue.
I appreciate their subtleness though.
So right now, Luland, the gun range has, prior to the district acquiring the property, there was an agreement where Luland has a blanket easement, and the grantor, meaning whoever owns the property, has the right to say where the easement actually goes, so wherever we construct the roadway. And from, just as a title lawyer, when you see blanket easements, they're they're extremely hard when you come to plating and everything, and there's a blanket easement. Collier County, to your point, it's just going to be extremely difficult to work with. So what we've done with Tony and with David and our own surveyor is acknowledge where the access has historically been and basically memorialize that. So instead of it being everywhere with your right and then our right to designate the location, we're just going to do that now. And we're going to say, this is the location where it's always been, where we're going to record an easement over that location. That easement will also be public, so everybody can continue to enjoy those roadway segments. And it will give access to Luland and, as David's mentioning, to other facilities where access is required. So that's really a title cleanup item from my perspective. We're not changing substance in any meaningful way because there always was the right to designate the location that the access would be on. So we would just be recording a new easement, if you will, that just says Luland and everybody can continue to use these roadway segments to go north.
Yeah, we want to address, we went through, I think, about the easement section, easements relating to the seller, we talked about that, utilities. The temporary utility relocation, we discussed that, which is D2 on page 2 of the closing and post-closing agreement for zoning cost allocations. D3I talks about the platting with regards to utilities and the roadway to, and we talked about the, it was, again, subject to modifications by Collier County. We talked about that. And then Roman numeral 4 on page 3, if you want to address that one, Francesca, that's about that the district understands for the seller that the buyer may acquire title to other property. Can you discuss how that's going?
A similar utility issue occurs on Mr. If I'm saying your name wrong, Paul, is it Tadio? Okay, Paul Lindsay.
PT.
So Paul's property has easement over what will also be, assuming that property is closed on and we don't see any reason it won't be. That property, just to remind you back, we are including it in the rezone petition to downzone to single family. So it will have that compatibility that we've been looking for in this area. It similarly has district easements and facilities that are over and across planned building paths. So what this paragraph says that Sid says is to the extent Lindsay closes on that property, the district would reasonably cooperate with us in doing a similar arrangement. So the developer would pay to relocate the facilities, and there would be an easement swap, if you will, from across the building paths to the relocated utility line. It's simply a continuation of what we're doing on parcel 13. But what I wanted to do is make sure everybody was aware that we were going to have the same exact title issue when we close on Paul's piece. So let's address it up front and just everyone be of the same understanding that we'll probably have to go through the same exact process to get this lot layout that we presented.
There are no questions. I think you sort of touched upon it. Cost sharing, allocation of costs is a certain infrastructure. But I think one thing we just maybe want to mention, Francesca, again, is I think the last time it seemed certain the county wanted the 15 feet, but now there's not a level of certainty. It may or may not. So if you want to, again, discuss that aspect of it.
We think between the Union Road serving, district facilities, we think that the likely outcome is that the county will require Union Road to be expanded from 35 to 15 feet between the 100 lots and your own facilities. And then Luland may eventually redevelop. So it's typical that the county would require 50, but because we haven't gone through the detail, that's really going to be site development plan level. We want to have that in between. So it may be 50 feet, it may be 35. And all I'm doing here is instead of saying shall be 50 feet, we're saying maybe 50 feet, just because I don't have that degree of certainty to put a shall in the document.
Thank you. I think that was only, I think last time I said will. And then after, no, and I think that, again, it's evolving, moving depending upon county reviews, and the county staff preferred have been known to at times have second looks, second thoughts, third thoughts on topics. So this provides, that's why the May, I think that's important. We recommend that. And we created, like I said, we created a rough list. You can just see it from the closing document, but this is not the entire list of, just to give you an indication, and this is a draft only. And started roughing up the closing statement. And I don't know, Francesca, do you have anything else to present to the board, or?
These were the two substantive documents. And I think that, we hit on what are really the important terms. There are the easements that, and it's one of the easements that need to be finalized, but Tony will review that, and if closing, if it's the will of this board to defer closing, then we can bring those back to final adoption at whatever procedure makes sense.
What I'd like to have again is just begin to work on it, have the final set of documents, present them at the 16th meeting, close on the 16th. I'd like deals to go through, believe me. I've done that a long time ago when I was in-house in Pelican Bay.
So we would close simultaneously.
Right after the board meeting on the 16th. That's right.
I just have one question. I want to be sure I understand this. We're going to accept part of the cost to widen the road. Are we absorbing part of the cost if the utilities are moved because of development?
No, we're not absorbing those costs.
No, not at all.
The only cost that the district would have, and it's something that should be done anyway, I think David would say, is loop some of them, but that's unrelated to the development of this property, as I understand it, correct?
Okay.
What we'd like to do is we get the board to agree to place this on the September 16th agenda, and also request and authorize the execution of an amendment to the contract for the sole purpose of amending closing to September 16th. I mean, if you want to say on or before the 23rd, but I'm fine with the 16th. What do you think, Francesca?
To sign it.
Okay, so make the following
If
Tuesday.
we say the 9th, we can all sign, it's a 2-week signing closing process.
Oh, you know what, if we do, what's the Tuesday following the 16th? 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, September 20th.
I'm closing Paul's ground on the 29th of September, just so everyone knows.
So this one will be in place, but before then,
We
it's
need to do it simultaneously.
whatever works. Again, September 20th, I'm very comfortable with that. If you, Mr. Case and Francesca are.
It's all aligning, so whatever needs to be refined, and I just need to know so I can get my airline.
So why can't we do it the next meeting?
Well,
I mean, we were the 23rd, and then we went to the meeting, you said you were good with that.
Yeah, and again, Lynn's brought up a good point about just pure mechanics. Once we approve everything and getting signed and funded that day, it'd be a little bit difficult.
No wires, no.
We can wire it, hold in escrow.
It shouldn't be too.
Yeah, we can have it wired, held in escrow pending the document. So we can do the 16th.
I'm in favor of giving you guys whatever you need to take. If it's going to be done, we'll make sure it's done.
Because I would suggest
Correct.
agree to extend it to no later than September 20th with the goal to close on 16th. I would like them.
Do you need those form of motion?
Yes.
I'll move that.
Okay.
Then we
I
can.
mean, it sounds like they've got everything laid out. So all you gotta do.
You need a second
Speaking from
before.
I second.
Okay.
I second.
I'm speaking from a real estate perspective.
Yes.
Because it's like, we can close and then disperse on the 20th or whatever, but the problem.
There's a little niche that happened at the
The
end.
problem is we don't want any technical defaults. So why don't we say closing?
On the 20th, no later than 20th.
Okay.
And we'll aim for the 16th though. But
Yeah.
Okay, that's the way I've got the motion right now. Let me repeat it. It's been moved and seconded to place on the 9/16 agenda, close on or before
Yep.
Go September
I think the
20th.
motion should be authorize execution of an amendment to the contract for closing to occur on no later than September 20th, 2016. And then the second motion would be place the item on the agenda for September 16th with the idea to try to close that day. But the first one is the formal aspect about the extension.
Okay.
That'd be my request. Sam.
Yeah.
First one is the place
I'll
it on.
accept that as part of my motion, please.
Can you do it in one motion? That's what I think.
You can do it in one motion, yeah.
Okay.
I'll accept that.
One
Say,
motion.
it's to place on the 9/16
But the
agenda.
I'd say the first, okay, go ahead.
Okay, tell me what you want. And then
Well,
ask the
the board-
motioner and the seconder if they agree.
The board to approve the chair to sign an amendment to the contract for closing to be no later than September 20th, 2016, and have the item with final documents on the board agenda of September 16th, 2022.
I accept that as part of the motion.
Okay.
I
Chair
second.
Jessica Lindsay.
All right, and you're gonna send me that in
Thank you.
writing in case to make sure she got it right.
Oh, I'm sorry? Thank you. And it'll be a real simple amendment, and we can get that signed today and circulated around.
Is there any benefit in acknowledging we've approved the form of the declaration in that amendment as well? I don't know what the procedure
They
is.
already approved that.
We had a motion to do that, so, yeah, that's why I think Cal was prescient on that by asking it be in the form of a motion.
Can I say you just approved the motion that he said September 20th, 2016?
2022, excuse me.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
2036.
Whatever it is, more, okay?
But I'm on a different calendar. My calendar starts 10 years after.
Right.
The motion was to approve site plans A, B, and C and the protective covenants. And that was
A, B, and
moved.
C with the revisions to note clearly the access to the north.
Yeah. All right, give me what you
Well, I do.
want. Send it to me.
Two site plans.
I think there were three.
We.
The two plus the alternate roadway. Yeah, A, and B, and then C alternate for roadway.
So send me both motions.
Yep.
The board's okay with the motions that Tony has clarified. Send them to me and I'll make sure they get in the minutes.
Did the board vote on the last motion?
All in favor?
They have not.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you very much. And again, it's working with Lindsay's team is a very collaborative process. We both have represent our clients to the best of our abilities and we're zealous advocates, but at the same time, we both want the deal to go forward. Is that a fair statement? Thank you.
Thank you all again for your time.
And next time we'll have a better projector.
No, I like these far documents.
I know.
That works.
I literally did break the printer. It started steaming.
Thank you.
Ran out of ink twice.
Okay. See.
Okay, that's just supervisor requests and audience comments.
Let's start. So audience comments?
Just wondering if are these documents available, either going to be on the website or available to the residents?
They're public documents. I don't know
Covenants,
what
the
I-
minutes.
The ones that were approved,
Get it in your handout?
once they're signed,
Yes, sign.
it-
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give her just that recognizing these are drafts, these are not the final documents. I don't want anybody to say,
That's
these are the
thing.
final, these are the drafts.
Here's the packet.
Yeah.
I have no,
Yeah.
unless you come from Mike.
Well, this is for, this is for you. That's what she.
That's my patriotic mind.
She needs to get in.
Thank you, Mike.
all right. Any other public comments? What about from the?
Yes, can I would like to say something.
Okay,
Can you hear me? Yeah, this is Derlin Fish, calling in from Connecticut. So I just want to say that, that there's been considerable opposition from this project on parcel 13 since the beginning. And a lot of the opposition is from people who believe that the property should have been put to some use that would benefit the community rather than selling it to a developer. But that was a minority opinion, and that didn't happen. But I think, in my opinion, it was a mistake. The same mistake could happen with the county property. Why let the county put in whatever they want? Why can't we as a community go to the county and say, we would like to have this facility, this property put to some use that benefits the community, whether it be a dog park or whether it be a community center or recreation area. We have no access to public recreation areas in Collier County because they're too far. And so I think we deserve our proportion or our allotment of county recreation areas, and that property would be useful for that and would benefit the community. So why wait for the county to decide what they want to put in there? Why can't we tell them what we would like so that we can get something in there that would benefit us?
I believe we've already told the county what we would like, and the county basically said, no, it's their land. They are going to do with it what they want with it. We've already wanted to take it over in the first place.
Yeah, the residents, I think, can contact our county commissioner.
Yeah.
And if he hears enough on this, maybe he can fight harder for us.
Commissioner board meetings are open meetings. Any
Any of us can go
can go up there and go,
and
hey,
be
this is
heard.
what we want. Yeah,
We've already, as I said, we've already told
I
them
know that, but if the
that
residents.
this is what we
maybe
want, but
it would help if the residents went to.
yeah,
I think it
absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Derlin?
Derlin would like more of a plan that we present to them, and we haven't done that. We just said, you know, we would like to have the property turned over to the CID for public purposes.
Yeah.
Cal, can I say something? Derlin, I agree with you 100% on that, and I always have. However, and I don't mean you, there's something that the residents here need to understand. We don't tell the county anything. They are like a giant machine, and we are not in any position to tell them anything. It's not how it works. They are all the power. We have none of the cards. The other thing is, though, I did ask Deb a while ago to get a petition going and to present it as from the residents to the county, probably through Rick LaCastro. And I think the more people that are on that petition, the better they're going to listen, especially now.
Ray, and just to follow up again, the county commission has on their agenda a topic called public petitions.
Yes.
And people can send in to be on the, present a public petition. They get 10 minutes, not the 3 minutes, not the 5 minutes, but 10 minutes to bring an item before the board. And I would suggest that they may want to check the county website for how to utilize that public petition time on the agenda. And it's always at the beginning of the board agenda after they, so that's another avenue if the residents want to have the entire board of county commissioners hear it. And what will happen, the board does not take action except otherwise what they typically might do is direct staff to investigate and come back. But that's another approach to get it out there to all 5 commissioners at the same time. And I would suggest that they wait until after the new commissioners are seated. Because if they make a presentation now, the 2 of them are not going to be there coming after the election. So that's just
Tony, I agree, and I think it should be. I really think Derlin and Deb would be the ones to do the presentation. I really do, and I agree. Wait till the 2 new county commissioners are seated, and bring it up to them then. And I think that's the most effective way to ride over everybody else's opinion and get right to the commissioners.
Okay, any other comments from the anyone online?
I have no business question.
All right, Deborah has a comment.
Just a comment on the current discussion. Does the board?
Just keep coming, keep coming.
I said, you can't, if you're somewhere else, you can't see or hear.
Does in this issue, does the CID need to remain silent, or could the CID be supportive of what the residents are requesting? And is there the possibility that there might be some funds from the CID, from our assessments, to be offering something back to the county, or perhaps even have a plan of what we would like to build there and that we might cost share that. Can we give it a little more substance by both CID support of what we would ask the commissioners and then also the possibility of cost sharing?
I'm not going to give you any support. We've already decided, and most of the communities decided what's benefit. You've never shown a petition. You've never shown anybody backing you up, other than this Mr. Fish. He's the only one. You want that property to be used for what, a dog park, or you want it to be a community park? That means everybody in Collier County is going to be traveling back there. So we lose control of the facility when it becomes a county park, if it did, but they had no interest in doing that. So where you're getting all this information as far as the board supporting you, no.
No,
You haven't given us one
I'm
solution.
asking the community.
No. You haven't given us one solution.
To support the addition of some use area.
What's the use?
On the land.
What's the use?
Just like, what is wrong with a dog park?
It could be a dog park now. I go back there almost daily, and there's one person I see walk a dog.
Well, I think you understand what that means. It's fenced in so that.
It's not fenced in. You can walk that dog anywhere you want. You can run him on the airport
But
spot.
I think what Russ is saying,
I don't think.
community, where is the community? We hear from you, we hear from Derlin. I don't feel comfortable. This is something majority of the community sponsor, they're willing to go for the board and ask and start the momentum. I don't think it's a job for the CID. Right now, with all we've worked years.
I'm gonna get the Sarasota address on this.
Do you remember?
Isn't that where we're going?
Where a lot of people attended? A lot of those people really wanted the property left alone. But I think they would be very supportive of having some kind of recreation here at the port.
But you're also asking the community to pay for this.
I'm asking.
Possibly what she's asking, she puts together a petition, comes up with some ideas, brings it to the board, and then you could say, yes, there's enough community support. And two, we would consider participation. But I mean, I don't think you can agree to something broad as what's being presented now.
Yeah.
When we get going, we don't want this to come on.
I'm going to mute them.
Yeah.
Again,
They don't
more
realize that.
remember, we have certain contractual obligations under our contract also. I don't want to be accused of anything interfering with that. So I think it's amorphous. If you want to bring something back, I think that Kel's got it right. As sort of and
It's not making a commitment on your part, but it's saying that there's a possibility that you might be able to use some of our assessments.
Yeah, I don't think this board has ever said no to any ideas that the community brings forward.
You may want to take a look at the county website and take a look at the Parks Master Plan and see if there's anything included there.
Planning crap here, yeah.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
You want another broken?
There are so many people that are having a fit over our assessments and our taxes going up. And now these others, they want to take over a piece of land that we've got to maintain. We have to take care of. Our taxes are going to go up. They don't want taxes to go up, but they want a community property park. I just don't understand what everybody's thinking about.
I think what we're saying though, this majority or this group needs to come forward with something. Just one or two people speaking for the whole community is hard to accept. But let me make one correction. Your real estate taxes went up, but your assessments did not.
I know. But obviously,
I don't understand that part.
Yeah.
people don't believe.
Is there anyone else online that has a comment for the board? Okay, hearing none, ma'am, I would say the audience comment section has been closed.
So now.
I do have new business question.
Did we get?
I know,
No, we're
it's a new business, I just wanted.
we have no business on
There
this?
is no-
No, we don't have a business, I just had a question.
That would be a comment.
Okay, then, never mind.
If it's a question that either myself or David or Tony or one of the board members can answer it
Well,
after
it's
the
just,
meeting.
there was some chatter on next door about the letting the wait, about, and I want to know too. Do we have any input on the land that whoever bought the land wants to put a boat storage? Do we as a community have any say in that? Or since the land's already bought, it's just up to Collier County to say, no, it's not zoned for that, or yes, you can do it? Do we have?
Isn't there a meeting already on that? at
There was
Collier
a
County?
public hearing, there's a public.
There was a
hearing.
public
I
hearing.
was going to bring that up in supervisor comments.
Okay, yeah,
So, yes.
okay. So now we have supervisor comments, correct?
Yes.
What's that? I think you have one.
Yeah, my exact same thing. I know that we have no input as far as the change. I think what they did was they changed the zoning to allow dry dock storage in that particular zone. I believe that's what they were doing.
That's what.
That's the public hearing.
That's what they're proposing to do, and it's got to go through several stages still. So there'll be lots of opportunities for public input.
Right.
Well, I guess the question is, didn't they already have the hearing for the planning commission or not?
They did. That's already.
I thought maybe
I thought
that
was
got
planned.
pulled.
I don't know. I've not followed.
Well, my point being is, I don't think that we're not going to get anywhere with changing the zoning, et cetera. However, when they get to the point when they come for a permit to do, if they get that permission, I think then that's when the CID ought to come along and say, we can't change what the county's going to do, but we want to make sure it's landscaped correctly and that it's blocked so that it's the entrance to Port of the Islands. And a lot of the boat storage places look very nice, but there's some that ain't so
It looks
nice.
like a shed.
Exactly.
Aluminum.
So I think when it gets to that point, that we ought to be able to, to say to the permitting part, yes, we can't say no to it, but we would like to be able to have it adequately, what it's going to look like and how it's going, because it is our entrance.
Yeah, what I would, a couple of things. One is my advice and guidance to my community development districts on zoning and land use matters is you don't have any zoning power, you don't have any permitting power, you have no land use power. And that the district's ability to participate in local zoning land use decisions and matters can only occur to the extent that it impacts or adversely affects district facilities. And so the aesthetics and the architectural renderings, the county has a land development code that guides how that occurs. And in this process, are they asking for conditional use, David, or I can't recall?
I
can't recall all of this. I think there's actually going to be a change in the land development code that they got to.
Okay, if it's a change in the land development code, that's the time to request that the county incorporate into that section of the land development code that they change enhanced standards for buffering and architectural elevations. Because after that point in time, the county will say our hands are tied because we have architectural standards, we have landscape standards in our codes, and the developer meets or exceeds those standards. So if there's going to be a separate section dealing with this type of use, then the time is now. If it's not, if it was pulled from the planning commission, then the community needs to, in my humble opinion, go to and attend the planning commission, say, here's our concerns. We'd like to have these because this is a particular request and it's the entrance to our community, et cetera. And then if it's already gone past the planning commission, you can still get a second bite at the apple for the county commission. And the nice part about the county commission, it requires 4 affirmative votes for rezoning. And so if you have an advocate in the form of Commissioner Castro that, hey, you have his ear, if you can get the ear of one other commissioner, that then provides the opportunity to convince the developer to pay a little more attention. So I guess the question is, first of all, what's the status of it at the county level?
There is a link available, and I did look it up, oh gosh, probably a month ago, 6 weeks ago. So I'll try to get that link and send it around.
But again, it's important for the residents who have concerns about that, as far as its impact on the community, to then write letters, emails to county planning staff and to their commissioner, Commissioner McCaster. He reads everything. I think we all know that. And then if the board wants to take a position, we don't have it in front of you, you can find out and then come back on the 16th. So if the board wants to take a position, says, listen, we're not saying we don't have permitting power, but hey, we are concerned, our residents have expressed a concern. We urge you, when you consider this, to do A, B, and C. I think that's a legitimate role for the district to play.
Good.
So David, if you can find out,
Yeah, I'll
circulate
try
that
to
to
find
everybody.
that. Yes.
We want, plan on putting it on the agenda for the 16th.
Okay. Other supervisors?
Any other supervisor comment?
Yes. Is she there? Did he move? No, I didn't, but you did, other than the one caller that was arguing with his wife.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so if there's nothing else, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your patience.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Well, once the plan, when it's.
Okay, Terry, I only have one thing, and that's the minutes that were just approved.
Thank you.
No problem.
Oh, thank you, Sam.
No problem.
Thank you for your.
Oh, thank you. That's what I want to know.
So we stopped the recording, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't count for progress.
There is, well,
It doesn't count.
I hear from nobody.
It doesn't include David. That's correct. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've given a lot of thinking about something to get that one.
Yeah.
and if I could just, like, that was easy.
No, she never responded.
I'm so old, it takes me old.
Well, that's the problem. No one understands.
Yeah, I know.
And it can't be a minority. Majority. That's a
Just
lot
can't
of
change the river.
expense.